Former President Donald Trump has a new defense in his upcoming federal trial over his alleged election interference. It was the Russians. According to Politico's Kyle Cheney, Trump's legal team is arguing that the distrust in our electoral system, which led to the January 6th Capitol riots, was actually not his fault. It was the Russians. Yes, Pooty Poot. Blame him. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't sow any sort of, confusion about the election or anything like that. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. It was the Russians. It was the Russians. Cheney wrote, he will make this case by relying on intelligence community assessments he and his allies have constantly maligned and disputed. So, oh my goodness, this entire thing is just, wow, so good. Okay, details. The excerpt Cheney highlighted is that said that Smith's office, quote, falsely alleges that President Trump eroded public faith in the administration of the election. Gee, I can't imagine how you would do that, other than doing constantly tweets, posts, messages about how the election is rigged or it's going to be rigged, and if I lose, then it's because of the riggedness, and then got to challenge the election results in all the different states, even states where you won. Doesn't matter. Oh my God. And instead points at the 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment, or the ICA, which came to the conclusion, by the way, that the Russian government attempted to interfere in the election in 2016 using various social media ads to ad spends and all that stuff and conspiracy theories to try to prevent Hillary Clinton from becoming president of the United States. Now, Cheney notes that the filing uses strikingly similar language to attribute the origins of that erosion to foreign influence, that is, foreign efforts to undermine public faith in the U.S. democratic process, and goes on to argue that Trump is entitled to the detailed information supporting the conclusions in the 2016 election ICA, which can demonstrate to a jury that he did not create or cause the environment that the prosecution seeks to blame him for. So, what does that mean? Donald Trump is a believer in RUSSIAGATE? Huh.
Whoopsie.
The very thing that he's been railing against. All the Russia hoax. It was a Russia hoax, you see. Oh, did I say hoax? I meant the thing that is not my fault for the election, because there was election interference in 2016. Don't you know that? Yeah. That's why I'm not at all responsible for, people not trusting in the election in 2020. Wow. Although he still, of course, calls it the Russia hoax. Now, look, the reality is the Russian government did use bots and trolls to try to spread conspiracy theories online about Hillary Clinton, and it basically put out narratives. Do I think that's why Hillary Clinton lost? No, and I'll tell you over and over again, her campaign died the death of 1,000 cuts, mostly self-inflicted. She was deeply unpopular among independents. She ran a very poor campaign, didn't campaign in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, and she had to deal with things outside of her control as well. For example, the populist mood that was running through the country at the time, and of course, sexism. Yes, that exists, and yes, she had to deal with it. That doesn't mean the Russians didn't interfere. They did, but the result of their efforts is, I think, in my personal opinion, negligible based on everything that I've seen. I don't think they made as big of an impact as some mainstream pundits in the media and in the Democratic Party think they did. And that includes Hillary Clinton. Which isn't to say, though, that, we should just write it off and that, totally fine that they can interfere since it doesn't really have that much of an effect. No. You understand, I don't want any foreign power interfering in our elections. Look, I recently did a segment about Israeli-linked lobbyists attempting to bribe politicians into running and knocking out Rashida Tlaib, the first Palestinian-American woman in Congress. So that is interference in an election, or at least attempting to create a primary challenge, for the purpose of propping up politicians that will be, amenable to your cause, or basically that politician will owe you their vote. And so you will vote accordingly. I don't know. It seems like a big problem with our election system, okay, when it comes to money in politics, which is why we need to get rid of money in politics. But anyway, more details into their argument, though. Trump's teams argue that the information relating to a significant escalation of foreign influence in the 2016 election motivated then President Trump and his administration to focus on foreign influence and cyber risks, as reflected in Executive Order 13848, and to be skeptical of claims about the absence of foreign influence in the 2020 election. Again, who was being, skeptical of claims about any foreign influence? Oh, right, Donald Trump. Again, Russia, Russia, Russia. There was no mention of Russia specifically in that executive order, and there's no indication that the order was a product of Trump's interest in combating the efforts made by the Russians, writes the Washington Post's Philip Bump. After the 2018 midterms, Justice Department announced that there was no significant interference in that election and was gearing up to make sure to protect the 2020 election from said interference as well. And you know what? It appears that they were successful. Okay? In fact, Trump's own Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, along with other agencies, announced on November 5th, 2020, that there was no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised during the presidential contest. So then why would people not trust the 2020 election? Again, it depends on who you ask. If you ask Hillary Clinton or Biden supporters, they would say, well, yes, we can trust our election system. Okay, great. But if you ask a certain group, MAGA supporters, well, then they're going to tell you, no, can't trust it, voter fraud. You know why? Because that was the same thing Donald Trump was saying, even before the 2020 election. Again, he insisted that his own administration was lying and saying, Russia, 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 Russia hoax number one, Russia hoax number two, impeachment hoax. He called that announcement, quote, highly inaccurate, and that there was massive improprieties and fraud, but presented no evidence. And I'm not sure why I just mentioned impeachment hoax. He called a lot of things hoaxes. So, but anyway, it's really interesting to see how Trump is taking the ICA report that he disagrees with, or disagreed with, and is now saying, well, obviously, that is why people did not buy the 2020 election results. It was all Putin's fault. He did it, not me. Hilarious. Now, but as many journalists have pointed out, Trump's team left out a very important part of that ICA report, which says that Russia's goals were to undermine public faith in the U.S. democratic process, denigrate Secretary Hillary Clinton, and harm her electability and potential presidency. We further assess Putin and the Russian government developed a clear preference for President-elect Trump. Gee, I wonder why that is not in the filing. Interesting. So, what makes no sense here to me as an argument, and why they're using this as an argument is, wait, who are you trying to say had no trust in the election results in 2020? Because everything that you can look at shows that it was MAGA supporters that had no trust in the electoral system in 2020. Again, because you had Donald Trump out there talking about voter fraud constantly. It wasn't Biden supporters, it wasn't Hillary supporters. In 2016, Hillary Clinton herself conceded. Now, she did blame Russia for influencing voters to vote against her, but didn't make accusations that Russia had hacked into our voting system or changed any votes or anything like that, because there was no evidence to support it. Now, there was a hack, Tony Podesta's emails, which were then released by WikiLeaks. Okay, so Russia, again, our security, our intelligence apparatus says Russia hacked the Podesta emails. But there were no allegations that any votes were changed by Russian hackers in that election. And again, no evidence of that. All right. Whereas leading up to 2020, Trump repeatedly claimed that, well, if I win, great. If I lose, it's fraud. Automatically, it's fraud. It's fraud. If I win, I'm awesome and amazing. If I lose, it's because of deep state, voter fraud, China, what have you. Right. So logically then, it wouldn't be Democrats, Clinton, Biden supporters buying into election fraud and therefore showing up on January 6th. It would be Trump supporters showing up because of things that Donald Trump himself has said. And so, look, this is quite a half-baked legal argument, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure they think, it's a gotcha. See, if you believe in RUSSIAGATE, then you must acquit my client. Wait, what? No. It's a fun little surface-level argument that people who don't want to get into the details, who basically believe everything that Trump says, whenever he says it, is like, oh, yeah, that's right. Russia did it. Wait, what? I am now a RUSSIAGATER. What? It falls apart the second that you dig into it, which might explain exactly why Trump approved of this plan.